right, we're live. You got Joe, Rosen, Lissette, Hurtado. Today we're going to walk you through something. Well, let me just say it this way. A lot of times Lissette and I will come on and we'll talk about some sort of negotiation strategy or what to do when you're selling your house, what's a home inspection, appraisal, all these different things that are a little bit, maybe second, third tier kinds of things to be talking about. Today I want to really simplify it. I had somebody come to me the other day and say, Joe, I love your videos. But you were talking about an appraisal. I have no idea what that is. And I thought, man, you kind of forget when you're in whatever it is you do, right? Whatever your profession is, that sometimes you got to start with the base stuff. So today what we're going to go through is a typical transaction. Who are all of the professionals involved with that transaction, and just a little bit about what they do. Just so if you guys are thinking about buying or selling and you're thinking, is this really easy? Is it a lot? I'll tell you, if you've got a professional realtor, it's not tough, right? It is not tough. But it can sound tough. We're about to make it sound tougher than it truly is. So Lissette, of course, we know what a buyer is. We know what a seller is. But I would say the next, maybe person in a transaction is the realtor. Sometimes you've got one realtor, right, representing both sides. Sometimes you've got two. Tell me, why would you have one? Why would you have two?
Well, it really depends where the client came from. So for example, if I have a listing, I listed my property on the market, I've got offers, but I also have a buyer that's interested in the listing I have. So I'm going to be a transactional agent. I'm going to have both sides of the deals. I have to represent the buyer and I have to represent the listing agent. So you're going to have one agent. Most sales are done with two agents. So you're going to have your buyer's agent and you're going to have your listing agent. And then from there, sometimes you have TCs. So yes. Does the buyer have a transaction coordinator, the agent, and does the listing agent, which usually I, as a buyer or listing agent, always have a TC also. So just within that top tier of agents, you have two steps, and that's a total, 4 people right off the bat?
Yeah. So a transaction coordinator is essentially the admin person who takes care of, and every transaction coordinator is a little bit different. We've got the best doggone transaction coordinator, though. So once you go pending with us, her job is literally to make sure everybody involved is doing what they said they would contractually do, right? So she will talk to us as agents. She'll talk to the other agents. She talks to everybody involved, just keeping them on board, including the client. So some agents have them, some agents don't. When you do have them, it's just an added professional to make sure that things are getting taken care of. So that's a great point. So now we've got that done. Once we go pending, though, the first thing you're going to schedule is going to be, well, let's back it up. If we've got a listing, right? If we've got a listing, before it even hits the market, you've got your photographer in there. And there's a slew of different things. Tell me the differences in photographers. Well, I'll just end it there. Tell me the differences in photographers. What are we looking at?
Well, professional pictures are by far one of the most important things on any listing. Cool. So, and nowadays, you really want to look for a photographer also that has the capability of doing drone videos. But there's so many different aspects. You have the professional pictures, you have drone videos, you have the whole 3D mapping of the property. If it's usually a really nice high-end property, you're going to have a videographer come in and do that. So there's so many tiers to just photography itself as well.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before, but a lot of people in this, I literally had this text last night. The seller asked me to just use the old photos on the listing. I said, listen, number one, those aren't my photos. I can't do that, right? That's the property of the listing agent. Number two, I don't like those photos, man. I'm trying to blow it out of the water, not just for you, the seller in front of me, but every seller in the future is going to look at my past work and assume I'm doing the same thing. Right. I can't be average ever. I have to always be amazing. So there is such a big difference between average photography and great photography. And I would say if you are doing the photography, unless you're a professional photographer, that is a bad answer. I can't tell you how many $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes I see on the market where I can see the agent in the mirror. I can see the flash of the camera. The lights aren't turned on. The windows aren't open. And I'm like, oh my gosh, guys. So absolutely, that absolutely should be done. We take care of the photography ourselves on our team. I don't know if some agents make you pay for it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But most agents are going to take care of that with their fees. So that's another good one. Now, whether you do a pre-listing inspection or you get that inspection right after you go pending, you've got the home inspector. Tell us about that.
Home inspection, which almost every single deal, if it's a cash or if it's financing, you're going to have a home inspection. So the inspector comes in and inspects your property. And this is really important also as a listing for sellers to do the pre-home inspection. You know what's going on with your property before you even list it on the market. You are anticipating any issues that may come once you go under contract. So that is what a home inspector does, inspect your home.
Great. Yeah. And you're right about the pre-listing inspections. It means there's no surprises for the seller. And it's like paying for insurance. You're paying $300-400. You get the inspection. Now maybe you can get rid of some inspection contingencies and you know about the problems before you can put it on the market. That's great. And I'll tell you guys, this is a visual inspection. So they're going to come in. They're not cutting holes in the walls and checking the interiors of the walls. They're going to look at things visually. All right. So if you see a roof that might have a problem, or you see an AC that you can tell right off the bat it's got some problems, don't plan on just getting the home inspector in there. They're going to tell you the roof has problems, the AC has problems, but then they're going to know you might want to talk to a professional roofer. You might want to talk to a licensed and insured AC company. So if you see these problems and it concerns you, get them in on the inspection as well, right? A lot of those guys who aren't home inspectors will do free estimates, and we should, as realtors, have you covered on good recommendations for those. We can coordinate all that for you, and then you can get those numbers before that inspection contingency period's over. So that's another great one. So now we get through that period. What's the next thing we're waiting on? Who else is involved here?
Well, there's two really important people. I'm going to go ahead with lender first, because without the lender, we don't have a buyer. Yep. So unless you have a buyer that's paying cash, you're most likely going to have a lender. And this is the person responsible for telling you how much home you could afford, what your monthly payments are going to be, and providing all the services that you need to get approved for that loan and get funding.
Now, I've dealt with lenders that I would say are average or maybe even below average, and I've dealt with awesome lenders. What's the difference between the two? What am I looking for?
For me, it's communication. I think if a lender is not communicating with you, not returning your phone calls in a timely manner, text or emails, if it takes them more than 24 hours to respond to you, find another lender. Just because it's so important to communicate with this specific person in a transaction, and everything needs to be done in a timely manner. And if they're not on it, this is a huge ball that could be dropped, and it's going to affect the whole closing of your on your property. So yeah, communication for me is number one.
Yep. A couple things I'm looking for is aggressiveness. If you're offering as a lender to call the listing agent and I've got the buyer, just to make them look better, thank you. That's amazing. Not a lot of lenders are going to offer to do that. If you're putting me in three-way texts with my client so I can see what's going on, so even when I'm busy, I'm on the ball and I know what's happening, man, I love that. Overlays. It's basically a lender word for added restrictions, right? So if FHA says, hey, we can give a loan at a 500 credit score, some banks might say we can do 620. That added restriction is an overlay. Some banks have them, some banks don't, or lenders, I should say. So it's really important to ask your lender, do you have overlays? If you do, tell me about them. If you've got tougher credit, that might be a challenge. It's also important to have a lender who knows their products well and has a lot of products, right? Some lenders literally can only use the one particular bank they're with. Some have a slew that they can shop. If they've got a slew they can shop and you're a really interesting buyer, let's say you are a business owner and you've got less than 2 years under your belt. A lot of people can't get that done. If you've got a lender who's got a lot of different people they can shop to, they might have 1 or 2 products available to you. So all of those different questions are questions that you can ask. And again, if you've got a realtor you trust, they can walk you through that stuff. So I know who you're going to say is the next most important person. Let's hear it.
Title for me. They need to be notified right away once you go under contract as well, as long as with that email that goes out to the lender, goes out to title company as well. They're going to be doing the majority of the work from after you go under contract, you pass your inspection period, lenders doing their job on their end. Now title needs to do their job. They need to inspect the title of the property. They need to do any lien searches. They're the ones that order the surveys on the property, and they prepare the whole closing, all the documents at closing. So they're the next group of people that you're gonna have to work with.
Yep. So they're pulling from everybody,
Mm-hmm.
the realtor, the transaction coordinator, the buyer, the seller, the inspector, the appraiser who we haven't even gotten to yet. They're pulling all that stuff together. So at the end, they've got all the numbers. They can disclose them to the buyers and sellers so they know where they're at, and then they can get the property closed. And here you absolutely want someone who's a good communicator and maybe even more important, organized, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with title closers who you bring up a file and they're like, wait, which one? And it takes them 2-3 minutes on the phone just to find that file because they're sifting through all the sticky notes on their desk. Man, you want someone who's got a great system and is on top of it. So that's another good one. So get into an appraiser. Tell us what an appraiser is.
So they're going to be the ones that work hand in hand with the bank, and they're going to suggest and tell you what the property is worth. So if you're under contract for 320 and the appraisal comes back at 310, there's a $10,000 difference there that you're going to have to work out somehow. But they're the ones that put that price on the property. So whether you're under contract for whatever number or whatever the seller wants for the property, it really does come down to the appraisal.
Yep, exactly. And guys, you can't pick your appraiser. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no say in who it is. The lender orders it, so you can't order it, right? And this is all done on purpose. They're trying to protect that person because they don't want you influencing them. What you can do as a realtor, right? Your sole point of influence is I always like to leave a little folder just waiting there. Or maybe I'll drop it off for them at their office, and it just says, hey, here's some suggested comps just to make your job easier. And that's really the only influence you have. Whether or not they use it is completely up to them. Yeah. They're not supposed to be interacting with you a lot, which is completely understandable. So just realize that. And I'll tell you too, I've had so many clients call me up and say, Joe, I was here with the appraiser. It went awesome. He said my home looks awesome. Everything looks good. So I feel really good. And then it comes back and it's short on appraisal. They're not going to tell you we're going to have problems on the numbers, because now they have just created a 30-minute conversation and challenges for themselves. They don't want that. So they're going to appease you, right? It's not to be a jerk. It's not to be dishonest. It's because they have 3 more appraisals they have to get done that day, right? So they're moving from appointment to appointment. That's not their job to inform you of what it is. You'll see it in the paperwork. So just realize you don't know the answer until you actually get the final appraisal back. So going back to the beginning, we're looking at these properties, especially if you've got somebody who's tight on funds. We want to know, maybe it's a higher priced home, but because it's got impact windows, it's got a metal roof, it's got all the things necessary, it might actually be cheaper on insurance. Whereas if you've got a home that doesn't have impact windows, it's older, it's got some more issues to it, the insurance might be higher even on a lower priced home. How important is your insurance agent and that relationship that you've got with them?
Yeah, no, it's extremely important to have that open communication and relay all this information over to them so they know and understand all the aspects of the property and provide you with the best discounts. You could get discounts for the wind mitigation, for hurricane. Yep. They know what they could apply, and as long as you're providing the information to them, they're not going to know unless the information is there.
Yes. So is there anybody else I'm missing? I feel like that is a pretty good amount of people we've got included.
There is. And let me tell you, I think that buyers and sellers don't understand really how many hands are on a transaction. It's a lot, actually. And then you have within each department, lender, title, specific people that work, whether it's a processor, then you have underwriting. So it's a lot. But as long as you have a good agent, they know how to handle all these moving pieces and how to keep it all together. So the buyer and seller doesn't have to worry about being on top of everyone. That's our job.
Yep. Well, great video. I mean, this is going to be super helpful. I'll probably share this one in the future too, because you get so many people who are just a little overwhelmed with how many people are involved. But all of these people are important, and they all play a very specific role. And, you know, I've had people say, I don't know why someone just doesn't do all this stuff, right? Why isn't all? There's a reason. The appraiser cannot talk to the other people, right? There's a reason that a lot of these people don't interact. It's to keep people safe and keep things honest. And it's a big, big, big transaction. So Lissette, I appreciate you coming in today and telling us about all this. Guys, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask us. We'd be more than happy to DM you, or we can just shoot down into the comments and answer any questions you've got after this video. But Lissette, I will see you next week, my friend.